Next thing, let's start stylizing the scene so that it doesn't look so flat. First of all, let me talk about some essential principles here. Here you can see we have a sphere. If you want to make things look realistic, we want to introduce some highlight and shadow and then cast shadow as being cast onto a surface. So if we put it really simply, all we need is to introduce a bit of highlight on one end and then a bit of shadow on the other end, and then maybe do a cast shadow. But in this case, we need to make sure we know where the light source is coming from. So in this image here, we can see that the light source is coming from the left top corner. So it's highlighting this left part of the sphere completely in white. And then we have a gradual gradient shadow that's going on the side here. Although in terms of drawing or in terms of making things realistic, there's a lot more to just simply the highlight shadow and cast shadow. There's a lot more to that, but we don't want to go too much into the details today. For now, I will just use these three different layers, the highlight, shadow, and the cast shadow, to stylize our scene and make it more realistic instead of being so flat. So let's look at how we can apply those lights and shadows inside our composition. First of all, before I do the lights and shadows, I want to establish some highlights and shadow within the scene. So first thing I want to do is go down to my backgrounds. I want to introduce a gradient color on my background. So let's go to the effects and presets, search for gradient ramp. And then for the gradient ramp, I'll sample this original color here, and then I'll sample this color again, put the start on the maybe left bottom corner, and then put the end ramp maybe on the top right corner. However, I want to change this color to be a little bit darker so that we have a slight variation in the backgrounds. See, something like this. So we have a slight gradient in the backgrounds. And then what I need to do is let me go to my layers, new, and then create a solid layer. For this one, I'll change it to around a orange color, a very light orange color, something like this. And then we're going to call this one light source. Click OK. And now I want to go to my ellipse tool to draw a circle on the left top corner over here, serving as a light source of my scene here. And for the mask, I'm going to change the mask feather to a bigger percentage over here so that we have a feathered edge. That's good. And then let's change the blending mode to add. It's going to make this side of the scene really bright, and it's overexposed. So I need to go to T for opacity, change down the opacity number. So let's say if we change it to around 15%, you can see here we are introducing some lights on this side, as if there's a sun just shining on the left-hand side of our scene. That's looking pretty cool. I'll just move this one up a bit more and then make sure we don't have this edge. Maybe I can drag this mask up so that we are feathering out the edge over there. I feel like the percentage of the transparency is a bit low here. Let me change it to 30%. Yeah, something like that. And then I want to go to my mask feather again just to make it bigger so that we have more of a gentle glow here. So that looks pretty cool. Now I'll just do a shadow for the entire scene. Same thing, go to new and then add a solid. For this one, I might want to change it to a darker red color, something like this, and call this one shadow. And for the shadow, I'll go to draw a mask on the bottom right corner over here like this. Go to the mask feather, change it to maybe around 800%, 800 pixels. And now we have this area where we have a shadow that's darker, making the scene on the right darker. We need to go to the blending mode to change it to overlay. So now we have this part that's serving as a shadow. We also want to manipulate the opacity to tone it down so that it's not too dark. Let's say if we change it to 50%, and you can already see we have more depth in our scene now because we have this light sources coming from this left side, and then we have a dark shadow that's going on in the right hand side. So now the scene setup is good. Next thing, I just want to add some gradient color maybe to this table because the table right now is looking pretty flat. So let me go to my tabletop here. I just want to add a gradient ramp to the tabletop. Let's change the color to this original color of the table that it has right now. And then for the end color, let's sample this darker color over here. And now I just want to have a slight gradient starting from the closer to the camera going away so that it's darker when it's closer to the camera, and then when it's lighter when it's actually away from the camera. So we have a gradual gradient like this. Maybe I can change this light color a bit darker, something like that, and then change this darker color even darker so that we have this gradient that's going on as if it's actually receiving some light from the light source, and then we have a slight variation on the tabletop so that it doesn't look so flat. Now I'm losing some of the details on the texture, so I need to go to my texture, go to T, and then change the opacity to a higher number, let's say 60%. I want to be able to see my texture better. I think that looks pretty cool here. I like this gradient color on the table here. And then for the scene setup, one more thing I want to do is let's go to layer, new, and then add a solid. Call this one bottom gradient. For this one, I want to change it to actually maybe a darker red, really dark like this. And then I'll just draw a rectangle mask at the bottom edge over here like this. And then let's go to the feather, make it maybe 200 pixels so that we're feathering out the mask over there. Just a slight gradient in the bottom so that we can have some separation between the sky and the ground over here. So this is before. It looks pretty flat, pretty man-made. And then once we have a gradient in the bottom over here, I can even tone down the opacity, change it to maybe 35% or 55%. I can maybe change this color to a completely black color. That might also work as well. Just to have some gradient in the bottom edge over there to add some dimension to the scene overall. I think that's looking pretty cool now. And that's the complete scene setup. We are adding a light source, we're adding a shadow area on the right hand side, and then we're adding a bottom gradient over here. And the only other thing I did is to add a gradient color on the tabletop. So that's for the scene setup.